Today we're going to be making a tender chicken breast chicken soup with homemade egg noodles. I hope you stick around. The ingredients for our homemade chicken soup will be some broth, chicken broth. I have homemade, so use what you have. You'll need about 8 to 10 cups. We're going to be adding our vegetables. We've got some carrots, celery, and onion. We're going to wash those up, cut them up. I'm going to add some garlic. And to our seasonings, we've got some seasoning salt, some onion powder, garlic powder, salt, and also some pepper. We have our chicken that we're going to debone, and we're going to add that later on into the cooking. And I've got some parsley that we'll add along with. We'll also be adding some thyme and rosemary later on in the cooking, about halfway through. Well, I've got my chicken broth thawed, and now I'm going to go ahead and add my vegetables. So we're just going to put in all the vegetables. If I need to add a little water to this, then I will. Carrots cut up, onions cut up, and the celery. I will also add my seasonings now. Sprinkle in some pepper. I like a lot of flavor and color. And usually when I make a chicken soup, I usually just throw the whole chicken in, the bones and all. Today, because I'm using chicken breasts from a chicken that I had and the back of it, I'm going to take the meat off of the chicken, and then I'm going to cut it up, and I'm going to add that, about 20, I'm going to cook it only for about 20 minutes when the soup has already been cooking and simmering and softening up those vegetables. Then, only then, will I be adding the raw chicken, and I'll have it cut up in chunks. That way, it doesn't get too hard or rubbery, and it should come out very tender and juicy. And I am going to add about a tablespoon of garlic, because chicken soup for what ails ya. And garlic is so good. We'll get that stirred around. And we're going to get this boiling, and then once it gets boiling, I'll turn it down to a simmer, and we're just going to let that simmer. Look at the color. I just love color. All right, now I'm going to go about deboning my chicken. Continue to debone this. This isn't a very hard thing to do. Just go against the bone, kind of follow along. You can do it. Don't be afraid to get out and try. I don't know if I'll be using all this meat for this soup. I may add it into another dinner. I am going to remove the skin. The skin you can just peel right off. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. And we'll cut that up later. Then you'll want to begin to cutting your chicken up into some decent size pieces. And once I have enough, I'll add it into my soup, but I'm going to let this get a little bit soft. Okay, so we're going to use about this much chicken in our soup. I'm going to put this other chicken breast away and keep it in a bag in the fridge, and I'm going to cook something up a little bit different tomorrow. Now we'll begin the process for our homemade egg noodles. So we're going to start with 1 cup of flour. And we're just going to put that in the center of our bowl. I've got 1/2 teaspoon of fine salt, and I'm going to incorporate that nice and well, get that mixed up good. And then I'm going to put the flour into like a little well in the center. I'm going to make a well in the center of the flour. I also have extra flour for when we roll the dough out onto the countertop. And we are using 2 room temperature eggs. And what we're going to do is we're just going to put them in the center, and we're going to start to scramble our eggs in the center of the flour. And as we do that, the flour is going to get mixed from the sides into our egg. And we're just going to do that until we get all the flour mixed into our eggs. Just kind of scraping a little bit on the sides as you go. Just keep mixing. It's going to get thick. Excuse me. And we're just going to get that all incorporated until all that flour is used up. Get yourself a workout. Okay, it's coming together. A little bit crumbly. And we'll get it all sticking together. Just getting that flour off the bottom there. And you can see we've got most of the flour off the surface of the bowl. The dough will be sticky, but don't worry, we'll be adding a little bit more flour to that. So now that we've got our dough into a nice ball here, we're just going to take it, and you can see it's rather sticky. What we want to do is we're going to add this onto the flour here, and we're going to knead the dough and incorporate as much of the flour into it. What we want to do is we want to make it, we don't want to add too much flour, but we want to make it so the dough becomes not sticky. Pliable, but not sticky. So we're just going to knead that until it's smooth. Make sure your hands are floured. Have that little reserve. Just do a little bit at a time. Because if your flour is if you have too much flour in your dough, you're going to have a very dry noodle. It won't taste very good. Just knead that in, and we're going to get smooth and non-sticky. This process takes roughly 5 to 10 minutes. And our dough is nice and smooth, no longer sticky. Now we're going to take it and set it in a bowl. We're going to cover it with some plastic wrap, and we're going to set it in the refrigerator to chill. We're going to let it chill for 30 minutes, and if you wanted to do this earlier in the day or whenever, you can make this ahead of time, and you can chill this overnight. I'll chill it for 30 minutes, and we'll get back right to it. All right, our dough's been chilling for about a half an hour, because, you know, just like people, you want to chill so you can perform at your best. So we want a well-floured surface here, because we're going to roll this out. We're going to flour it all, and we're going to get this rolled out. We're going to break this into two first. We're going to work with one piece at a time. So let's break that apart. And we're going to flour our hands and our rolling pin. And you want to roll this out to about 1/4 of an inch to paper thin, as small as you can get it, to your preference. So you want this real nice floured surface because you don't want the flour or the dough to stick to your surface once you have it rolled out. You want to roll it and you want to turn it, and you're going to keep it from sticking to the surface that you're working on. So keep turning that dough. Get it as thin as you can. Keep everything floured. Keep rolling it. And we've got a pizza cutter that we are going to use to cut our dough out kind of even size. Let's see if we can get this more rectangle shape. And the reason you want to get it more even size so that when you do cook it, it cooks evenly. Just like when we cut our chicken meat that we're going to add the pasta to, we're going to make sure that that is cut even along with your vegetables too. It just makes sense. And as you can see, it's no longer sticking to the rolling pin. I'm just going to get this nice and thin. And I've got some cooling racks that we're going to use, that we're going to dry our pasta on. And this is going to take between 1 hour to 2 hours to dry, so you want to do this ahead of time. And I'm just going to cut even size egg noodles. And you could fold it over like that. Make sure you got enough flour in there first. You could fold it over and you could cut it like this to go quicker. But you got to make sure it's floured in between there so it doesn't stick. See how nice that comes apart? Oop, a little bit too big. All right, and we're just going to put that on our rack. And we're going to let that dry. We'll find out how long that really takes to dry. And we will continue with our other dough ball. All right, we've got our dough all cut out. I'm just going to brush some of the excess flour off, and I'm going to set these aside and let them dry for however long it takes, and then we'll be back with the rest of the video. In preparing the rosemary to add to our soup, we're just going to grab some, and I'm just going to peel the leaves off. You don't want to add too much because you just don't want it overpowered. So we'll add a few leaves, and with the thyme, just grab a stalk and hold back from the top and pull down and remove your thyme. And you want to be careful not to add too much of that also. The center stem is rather woody, so you prefer to not have that in your soup or any of your food. And if you get any in there, just pull it out. And then we'll be adding that in a short while. So our egg noodles have dried. I did prepare these the day prior, so for video purpose you'll see it all done in the same video. But you can see they're nice and dry, and I'm going to break it. You want them to break. Oh, look at that. So these will be nice for our soup, our homemade chicken egg noodle soup. So we'll get those in once the chicken's been added And then we'll add these and we'll cook them for about 3 to 5 minutes in our soup. Well, I think our vegetables are about fork tender. Let's take a see. Yes, nice and tender. So now we're going to go ahead and add our chicken that we had stored in the fridge. And we're going to cook this for only about 20 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and add our rosemary and thyme. Give it a stir. And we're just going to let that simmer for about 20 minutes. So you can see that some of the egg noodles have a lot of flour on them. I'm just taking a little brush that I have and I'm just gently brushing off any excess flour. So you can see there's quite a bit. So you might want to do that too with your egg noodles. All right, let's check that chicken. It's only been cooking for about 10 minutes. But I'm going to break it open and see if it's pink inside. Let's try a different one here. Oh, it's rather tender. And it is not pink inside anymore. All right, so our chicken is done. And I'm going to bring that back up to a boil so we can get our egg noodles added. All right, our soup is boiling. I did transfer it to another pan, a smaller pan, because I won't be cooking all these up at one time. So we're going to add our egg noodles to our soup. And when your dried egg noodles, well, when your egg noodles are dry, you want to boil those for about 4 to 7 minutes. Now for the final taste test. Get a piece of our tender chicken and a piece of our egg noodle. The chicken is very tender. As for the pasta is really good for the ones that got cooked all the way through. Some of these are a little hard, and I'm still going to call it a win. This is my first time ever making egg noodles, so I can always polish that up. And you can see this one isn't as wiggly like a fish as I would like it, but I'm still really happy with the way this soup turned out. I hope you give this tender chicken egg noodle soup a try and just experiment. Thanks for watching. Just a little recap on the egg noodles. You can store them in your refrigerator for a few days, and if you want to keep them long term, just put them in your freezer for up to 3 months. And as for cooking the egg noodles, I had to cook it a little bit longer because they weren't softening up right away. So you just, do your own thing and see if they get all floppy like a fish.